Today we have an early to mid-teens Ford Escape with a water leak, and I am going to show you where it's from. This is pretty common, not so much in the upper teens, but the early teens especially. And I did not realize I didn't have a video on this already, but I'm going to show you what this was. This used to be a really common problem, so stay tuned. All right, the complaint is trunk leak. I know it says the rear doors are leaking water, but they meant the rear door. And so it's water in the trunk. So I have already verified that it is wet. It is damp all around the spare tire, and I verified that. So what can it possibly be? Well, anything up here. You've got these grommets, this grommet, this grommet. Not really the hinge, but ever occasionally. This one does not have the automatic door for the rear, so it's got a hole here and it's got a hole there that are covered by grommets. This is where the wiring for the shock, if it had the lift gate that was a power lift gate, would come through. If you don't have that, which this one doesn't, they just have a grommet there. And I've literally seen that grommet missing before, but this one's not, and it's not the problem. It could obviously be the seal. That's not what's wrong with this one, but it could be the seal. You always want to do your due diligence. Generally, if the seal is leaking, you'll either have water sitting on the bottom of this, or it'll get in, you can't really see it. What it'll do is get in sometimes up under here, and it'll travel up under the rubber, and then down here on the curve, it'll jump over and then go out under there. All right, but that's not what's happening with this one. What we got here is a leaking roof seam. Now this was very common. This is an 18, and I haven't seen too many late teens ones doing this, but 12, 13, 14, those were notorious. And now they mostly leaked in the front, but sometimes you'd see them in the rear. And a good tell was usually you'd have stains in the headliner right here. And this one must have not been leaking long, because it does not have, it has a little bit maybe. I don't think you can see it right there. And don't have any on the other side to speak of. So we don't have any witness marks there too much. But what I did do is I pulled this off, and there's a metal clip right there, and it's rusty. All right, well, that has to be water coming from above it. I know it's not this. No, it's not this. I pulled this down. Don't see any signs of any water in here. This wouldn't leak onto that where it was, but from above it will. And so what we do now is we pull up the roof rack. Well, I've done that already. And here is, let me grab a pick here. Here is your leak. All right, you got the bolt hole right here that goes through there. That goes right into that bolt hole. There's another one. There are 8mm bolts that go right in there. Well, you can see this sort of has like a foot right here, mounting boss there, and it's got one right there. All right, they kind of jut down. You see how it kind of juts down? Well, that square fits. You can, pretty obvious that it fits right there in that square. Well, what did it do? This is sealer. This is seam sealer. It was tightened down too much, and it ruptured, and it eventually worked its way loose. Hot, cold, vibrations and all that, and it worked loose. Well, this is supposed to be one solid piece of sealer. That right there is metal. So that, you shouldn't see that. So this was very common. And so what we're going to do here is, if you can see, this one's still got the sealer here. This one's starting to rupture a little bit, but I think this was more of a function of me unbolting it, and it kind of stuck to there and kind of pulled with it. This one is not. This one was already ruptured. You can see the dirt under here, and that tells you that it's been getting under that sealer. And the seam is right there. You see the seam. Let me pull this stuff out of the way. All right, so there's the two pieces of metal that form the body, the roof seam. There you go. All right, top, bottom. Well, what do we have here? That's dirt right there. So that means water's been getting there, because water carries dirt with it. So, and we got dirt down in here, but I mean, it goes through here, and it can come out most anywhere down in here. And back here, it's going to end up in the trunk. Now, if you had it in the front's got essentially the same setup, just pointing forward. It would go down the A-pillar, and it would get your headliner stained and all that. front's not leaking. They don't all leak. They don't all leak. So what we do is to check it, when you pull this up, you have to be ready to reseal it, because it's probably going to rupture it a little bit like it did this one. This one was not leaking, I don't believe. This one was. All right, well, what we're going to do is I'm going to take maybe a right angle one of these, and I'm going to cut this. I'm going to see how it's lifting right there. All right, there's going to become a point to where it's actually, there we go, look at that. It's adhered to the metal right there. Look where that's been dirty under there. So it's been getting all up under that sealer. This sealer all through here, it just didn't bond. So I'm going to cut it right there. I'm going to cut it right about here with one of these, a right angle one, until it's solid like this. And then I'm going to sand and prep this area. I'm going to reseal it. All right, so let me get on it here and I'll show you. Okay, I'm not going to film all of this, but I'm going to kind of show you what I'm taking a right angle pick, and I just want to kind of cut that, right? And even though that's bonded right there, I'm going to clean a little bit into the bonded area, and I'm going to find out. See, I see this is lifting. So let me just guess right about here. This is all sealer right here. So let me guess right there. And then I'm going to kind of, okay, yep, it seems to be bonded right there. Yep, so I can stop right there. All right, let me finish cleaning it up. Now you get the gist of it. Let me finish cleaning it up here, and which is kind of hard to do one-handed. And that does take a little effort. Let me clean it up here and I'll show you what it looks like. If you have any doubts, here's a piece of the sealer. This is the top piece. I've kind of wiped it off, but you can see it's painted pretty much the color of the car, right? It should have been bonded, right? Let's flip it over. What do we see? I hope that's showing up on camera. Let me get some light on it. All right. It's not really all that great. Let me see if I can get it out here in the sunlight here. What I'm trying to show you is, there we go. Okay, you see the fat piece I'm holding with my fingers? See how that's more or less clean, and the little skinny piece is dirty? Well, that's dirt. Well, if that piece was bonded to the metal, there wouldn't be any dirt getting under there, would it? So that's how you know you got your leak. All right, you can see I've got it all spiffy and clean. You'll notice that the stuff doesn't really have a gloss to it anymore. That's because I sanded it. Now, I just use one of those little 2x4 looking sanding blocks you can get at a big box store, or pretty much any hard kind of anywhere that sells paint, even Walmart, somewhere like that. It stands right up perfectly in here, and you just scuff, because you won't all the way out to here. You can see where this is shinier back here and it's more dull right here. You want this to be scuffed. You got to have a little tooth for the sealer to grab on, because obviously this factory sealer didn't stick in the first place, because it relies solely on a chemical bond. I am not sold on the chemical bond at all, because I've seen way too many of these sealer failures like this in their various places. But when I do it, I sand it, and when I put my sealer over it, it's going to grab hold of that, and it should be good to go. So I'm going to apply some sealer and show you. Oh, and by the way, these right here that are going to go down here and touch this, be sure you clean these up too. Now, what I've cleaned this with is, you take just a damp paper towel or something and clean it, get the dirt out, and then completely degrease it with brake cleaner or some kind of solvent that's not going to leave any kind of film behind, because it needs to be spick and span for your sealer to stick. One more little thing with these. This piece of adhesive will be on the bottom of the little feet, and it goes in between the plastic feet and the seam sealer. I go ahead and remove this stuff. The less stuff I can have sitting on top of my sealer, the better. I'd rather just have that plastic sitting on top of it. So when you pull it up, you'll see this stuff. Just pull it off and discard it. So just a little FYI. Sealer is applied. This is somewhat of a self-leveling sealer I use, but I'm still going to take my finger and I got to make it sure it's in that little corner, and on the corner on here on the inside. And you don't want to, I'm not really pushing down on it, I'm just making sure it's covering the whole spot here. And this sealer, the main reason I'm using this particular sealer today is that it's been raining, and it was just drizzling a minute ago. There was a few minutes between when I recorded the first part of this video and now, and the reason for that is it started kind of drizzling a little bit. And this sealer here, you can apply wet or dry. And now that being said, I'm never ever going to apply it over wet, but so I've got it all dried back off again. But in case it rains again, it's not going to hurt it. This sealer can handle it. If you're not using this type of sealer, I kind of recommend that you use urethane seam sealer, in which case it needs to get dry, be dry and stay dry. But there you go. And now I'm just going to tighten this back over here nice and gently. It does not need to have the Incredible Hulk cranking down on these things. That's what happens, and it jams these foot pieces into the sealer and ruptures it. So anyway, that's going to seal your leak. If you got any questions or comments, let me know. This applies to all 4 corners. I'm only doing this corner. Okay, we're back together. Got our 2 little 8mm just nice and hand snug down on here. Oops. Hand snug down on here. It's nice and tight. Pop the molding back on. It's nothing to it. I didn't really tell you how to take this apart. You're going to run a pocket knife or a pick or something up under this, and it's a little bit of a tight fit. You probably want to do it on the inside, because you're going to make a mark on this. There's just no 2 ways about that. There is no special tool available anywhere that's going to let you not make any kind of mark. So you're going to make a little mark on it. So do it from over here so you won't see it. Run it under there, and then put you in a little maybe one of these, if you have one, under it, and then it'll pop right up. There's just one clip right here. Pop right up. It's got a little guide piece that holds it right there. And there's an 8mm, as you saw, there and there. 2 8mm, and then you just grab this and pull it up. There's a little bit of sticky foam under this, so you got to kind of work this up slowly. You don't want to just pull on it, or else you'll bend it. This, now, where can it leak? It can leak here. It can leak here. But there's also about here and about here, there are a couple of little a 10mm with a little plastic spider thingy that this clicks to, that also can leak because they penetrate to there. I looked at it and verified that it had not ruptured, so I didn't mess with it. So if you want to pull it up and do the whole thing, you can. Now, what kind of sealer to use? As I mentioned before, I'm using a sealer that can be done wet or dry. It's a professionally grade, available from Kent Automotive, and it's really good stuff. But I mean, for you to buy it, you have to go set up an account and all this stuff. You just can't buy them in stores, and you don't really need this. The only reason I used it really specifically is because it's intermittently raining today. Urethane seam sealer. You don't want, definitely do not use silicone. It will not hold up, period, end of story. It will not hold up. It'll last for a while, it'll seal it for a while, and it'll eventually peel loose, and you'll have a leak, and you'll also have a mess trying to clean up the old silicone. You're gonna want to use urethane seam sealer. You know, everybody, tons of people make it. 3M's probably the most common. You can get that usually at any of your auto parts stores. And it'll just be, instead of runnier like this stuff, it'll be more of like a paste. So it'll come out in like a little, you know, just a line, and you can still spread it around with the glove on your hand, and after you've got it all clean, and tighten this back down on there, and it'll seal up, and you can just cancel Christmas. It won't leak anymore. So there you go. Questions, comments, let me know. These things are getting older, so you probably won't see that many of these anymore, but if you've got one and you've got stains at any of the 4 corners, top of the A-pillars or top of in the back here, this might be your problem. Comments, questions. Thank you.